I arrive early, wearing a worn coat that has seen too many winters, carrying a quiet pride I keep folded inside my chest. I plan to slip into the back row, clap for my son, and leave without drawing attention. The lobby hums with polished shoes and confident laughter. People glance past me, then through me, and someone presses a stack of programs into my hands without asking. I accept them. I came for my son, not for validation. As I walk, memories crowd in. Late nights balancing bills. Extra jobs taken without complaint. Studying contract language at a kitchen table while my son slept. Every sacrifice echoes here, louder than the chandeliers. An usher corrects my seat, pointing me away from reserved rows. A donor spouse eyes my shoes and suggests I stand near the aisle. I swallow the heat in my throat and nod. From my place, I watch my son scan the room. His smile flickers as he searches, worried I couldn't make it. I lift my hand slightly, hoping he sees me without drawing notice. The ceremony begins. The dean steps forward, voice smooth, thanking sponsors and families. Applause rolls like practiced weather. My pulse climbs with each announcement. This place measures worth by labels, not stories. Badges. Seats. Names on walls. Today, my story doesn't count, and I feel strangely calm about it. I decide to stay silent and observe, to learn who people are when they think no one important is watching. The air tightens anyway, a pressure I can't explain. People shift in their seats, checking phones, whispering names, measuring status. I notice who thanks servers and who ignores them. I notice who listens and who performs kindness. My hands rest still, programs neat, breath steady. I tell myself this moment belongs to my son alone, that whatever happens next must honor him first, even if my own heart is bracing for impact. I stay quiet, counting seconds, trusting patience learned through years of waiting and working unseen. Then the master of ceremonies clears their throat. Papers shuffle. A microphone hums. And suddenly, my surname echoes across the room, sharp and unmistakable, cracking the quiet I thought would protect me, and in that instant, I know invisibility is about to end. My identity has always been shaped by assumptions, so I need to rewind and explain how I learned to be overlooked. I raised my son alone after betrayal collapsed our family, choosing stability over pride every single time. There was no applause for that choice. I cleaned offices at dawn while cities slept, managed ledgers at night when my eyes burned, and studied contract language between shifts. Education became our shared language of hope, not a badge of status. When my son chose law, I promised presence, even if that meant blending into walls at events like this. I told him I would sit wherever they placed me, as long as I could see him stand taller than his past. This ceremony celebrates benefactors, judges, and alumni, people fluent in power and introductions. I arrive without visible credentials, carrying history instead. The staff's mistake stings, but it mirrors decades of being underestimated without apology. I watch carefully. I notice who looks through me and who actually sees me. I file these details away, a habit learned from surviving systems that reward confidence over character. The room hums with ambition, but my focus narrows to survival instincts that never quite turn off. I remind myself why I stayed invisible for so long. Invisibility kept food on the table. It kept peace. It kept my son safe. I learned early that blending in could be armor. When people underestimate you, they reveal themselves without caution. I learned to listen more than speak, to wait instead of rush, and to prepare quietly. Those habits carried me through court filings, contracts, and classrooms I was never meant to enter. They also taught me patience, the kind that bends without breaking, the kind that watches storms form long before thunder is heard. It prepared me for rooms like this tonight alone. Still, a small voice inside me warns that today will test my restraint. This place, with its polished floors and polished names, feels like a proving ground I never asked for. I sense a reckoning approaching before the night is finished, and as I steady my breath, nothing about what's coming feels accidental anymore. I take a seat near the aisle, trying to blend into the crowd, yet knowing every movement draws scrutiny. The room buzzes with quiet energy, polished shoes shuffling, low murmurs, the scent of expensive perfume mixing with the faint hint of polished wood. Almost immediately, a coordinator approaches, holding a tray of water bottles. "Could you bring this to the front?" she asks, voice polite but certain. I comply. Once. Then again, because no one seems to notice I already did it. I measure respect in silence, tallying the small gestures and dismissals that fill the room like invisible ink. My son's classmates pass by, talking about clerkships, internships, and prestigious pedigrees, their parents judging quietly, calculating status with subtle nods. A benefactor near the front complains about staff efficiency, eyes lingering on me as if I were the cause. I nod, storing the detail. It feels insignificant, yet it tells a story. The dean steps forward to thank sponsors, applause swelling around me. I notice more than the ceremony itself. Security postures, program orders, name cards, all patterns my old work taught me to read. Timing, positioning, and attention to detail can reveal more than any title. When a volunteer snaps her fingers, directing me toward another minor task, I set a boundary with calm politeness, refusing to comply further. The temperature in the room shifts subtly. Eyes linger on me longer than they should. I feel the invisible line tightening between service and dignity. I choose patience, reminding myself that timing matters more than anger. Somewhere backstage, I know my real role waits to surface. Cameras tilt toward faces, whispers pass unnoticed by most, and I sense escalation begins subtly, almost imperceptibly, toward a public before it hardens into something unmistakable. And I know the moment of reckoning hasn't yet arrived. A faculty guest leans toward me, but it is very close, correcting my posture in a voice loud enough for nearby tables to hear. Please, sit up straight. Protocol is protocol, she says, enunciating each word as if I were incapable of understanding. Laughter ripples across the room, not cruel, just careless, but it stings all the same. I breathe through it, reminding myself of worse rooms I've survived, places where judgment was sharper and stakes higher. My son steps onto the stage for recognition mention, and pride steadies me. I hold my head high even as a sponsor's assistant physically blocks my view, insisting all staff stand for proper decorum. I refuse quietly, refusing to surrender space I earned with tickets, preparation, and history. Security approaches, unsure what to make of my calm defiance. I show my ticket. They glance, confused, then step back, still hesitant. The program pauses, murmurs spread through the audience like a low tide. I recognize leverage forming in this tension, the kind that only careful preparation creates. I text no one. I signal nothing. I simply wait. My past has taught me that pressure reveals truth more reliably than confrontation. Eyes dart between me and authority figures. The room tilts toward confrontation, yet I remain still, watching the clock, counting seconds like a trained observer. When my son's name echoes again across the hall, the energy sharpens. Heads turn subtly, whispers rise, and alliances shift in fractions of a second. Authority itself seems to question its own assumptions in real time, a silent acknowledgement that something is out of place. I sense that the next move, whoever makes it, will decide everything, tipping the balance of respect, recognition, and power in ways the room isn't ready for, but the microphone is about to call it forward without warning tonight. The second escalation hits with the subtle force of whispers turning into direct instructions. A coordinator leans in, voice clipped and sharp, demanding to see my badge. I have none. I explain calmly that I was invited as a guest, showing my ticket, but it seems irrelevant. She calls a supervisor, who arrives scanning me like a problem to solve, her eyes sharp and suspicious. I offer my name, clearly, politely, letting it hang in the air. Recognition does not land. My son notices the tension, faltering mid-smile as confusion crosses his face. I ground myself, refusing to escalate emotionally. I have learned that composure often speaks louder than confrontation. The supervisor leans in, citing decorum, threatening removal. I respond quietly but firmly, asking to speak with the dean. Cameras tilt toward the unfolding scene. The applause dies, replaced by a tense hush. Every detail, every movement counts. Memories of contracts, clauses, and the power of record surface. I know leverage exists in preparation and documentation. Someone finally consults the program index. Faces shift, uncertainty spreading through the room. The supervisor hesitates, buying precious seconds. I feel the room quietly choosing sides, discomfort flowing through attendees. This isn't about me anymore. It is about how institutions treat those without titles, the invisible ones whose stories go unheard. The pause stretches, fragile and electric, seconds from exposure. I steady my breath, heart measured, mind alert. I know the truth is cued, waiting to be spoken aloud by the person holding the microphone at center stage. And in that charged silence, I sense the turning point is seconds away, poised to change everything for everyone watching. Proof begins to build quietly, almost imperceptibly, as the system starts to activate. An assistant retrieves a list from a binder, flipping pages carefully, while another opens a laptop, cross-referencing names with seating charts. Slowly, the alignment becomes clear. I recognize my own name, bolded, under a category reserved for Hana Rays, official recognition that had been invisible to everyone until now. Years of anonymity sharpen this moment, making every detail painfully vivid. I keep my hands visible, voice even, body steady. The dean approaches, first confused, then curious, as if sensing a discrepancy in the program flow. I repeat my name once, calmly. Recognition flickers in his eyes. The assistant pales. The supervisor steps back, uncertainty replacing authority. My son's eyes widen as context finally lands. He realizes what I've endured to be present here tonight. I think about the documents submitted months ago, the invitations mailed, the confirmations returned. Evidence is never dramatic. It's meticulous. The room exhales, embarrassed. I feel compassion for those trapped by hierarchy and resolve for those enforcing it. Cameras tilt and focus. The truth inches forward, undeniable. When the dean lifts the card, the public acknowledgement lands fully. Concealment is over. My heartbeat slows. The verification triggers recognition I never sought, yet meticulously prepared for over decades of being unseen. In that instant, the weight of invisibility lifts, replaced by the quiet authority earned through persistence, proof, and patience. The twist hits like a jolt of electricity the moment the dean announces the honoree category. My name carries authority now, echoing across the room in a way it never has before. I am not staff, I am not overlooked. Today I am the keynote sponsor recognized for endowing scholarships. Gasps ripple through the crowd, soft but unmistakable. The supervisor steps back, apologizing quietly, visibly shaken by the sudden reversal of assumptions. I rise, not triumphant, but grounded. My son's eyes find mine, and relief floods his face, washing away the tension that had shadowed him. The room recalibrates instantly, courtesy returns like a switch flipped on. I acknowledge the mistake without shaming anyone, letting tone guide respect rather than indignation. Inside, old memories resurface, betrayal, dismissal, and years of labor undervalued by institutions that profited silently from my effort. I realize the twist isn't about status, it's about the mirror held up to the room. Respect arrived through proof, not humanity, and I choose restraint, understanding that true power tests character, not ego. Applause swells, heavy with lessons silently absorbed. As I step toward the stage, I weigh every word, every gesture, deciding how this moment will be used. The silence before my speech hums with expectation, judgment, and a fragile chance for repair, capable of reshaping policies, people, and futures beyond tonight alone here. My boundary action is deliberate and public. I decline the special seating offered belatedly, choosing instead the aisle where I had stood, where I had been visible yet composed throughout the ordeal. I make a point to thank staff by their role, not their rank, acknowledging effort over title, naming respect itself as policy. I request a review of protocols, framed as an opportunity for learning rather than punishment, making it clear that the goal is clarity and dignity, not retribution. I protect my son from becoming the center of spectacle with a small nod and a reassuring smile, keeping his pride intact. The institution listens because leverage exists now, carried by verification, documentation, and visible proof of process. I outline expectations briefly, emphasizing that dignity must extend to every guest, regardless of status. This is my exit plan from invisibility, not from the event itself. I will leave a paper trail, follow up later, and allow the evening to proceed without personal theatrics. Applause resumes, steadier now, as the audience adjusts to the restored order. I feel lighter for choosing clarity over revenge, knowing that public dignity is stronger than fleeting vindication. As I step back into my seat, I sense resistance hardening elsewhere. Some are preparing to respond, subtly, under the guise of procedure or protocol. Change rarely welcomes itself. I know backlash will arrive, cloaked in politeness, policy, and procedure, and I prepare quietly for accountability to test my resolve publicly once more under bright lights. Consequences begin to unfold quickly, though quietly, like ripples moving through water. Emails follow, formalizing apologies that were once unspoken. A committee convenes to review the evening's events, examining policies and procedures in ways that demand reflection. The supervisor is reassigned, training is mandated, and donors start asking questions about culture, signaling that accountability now carries weight beyond the immediate ceremony. I receive gratitude from staff who finally feel seen, who had been navigating systems that often overlooked their efforts. Karma, I realize, isn't about cruelty, it's alignment. The world adjusts when truth is recognized. My son tells me later how classmates began to reconsider assumptions about privilege, seeing beyond titles to the work and dedication that often goes unnoticed. The institution updates language, signage, and procedures. None of it erases the sting of earlier dismissal, but it redirects it, creating a safer, more equitable environment. I remain measured, documenting outcomes and timelines, tracking change over weeks. Some still resist, whispering about embarrassment or protocol. I answer only with facts, letting evidence shape the narrative. Respect scales when modeled publicly, silently reinforcing what should be expected. The night becomes a case study, not a scandal. Weeks pass, and the ripple spreads beyond campus, touching individuals and policies alike. Yet a final reckoning remains, personal and unresolved. I schedule a single meeting left unfinished, knowing that accountability isn't complete without direct conversation. This will be done face-to-face, under rules designed to protect dignity and growth, not ego, power, or fear. Today, the circle of responsibility and consequence is almost closed, but one last conversation will fully seal the lesson. The final confrontation unfolds calmly, almost quietly, in the daylight that makes every detail clear. Policies are printed, documents aligned, witnesses present to ensure accountability. The supervisor meets me without hesitation, owning the error fully, without excuses or deflection. I accept accountability paired with repair, recognizing that clarity and integrity matter more than ego. Together, we agree on training metrics, reporting structures, and follow-ups to ensure the lesson sticks. Resolution isn't about victory, it's about prevention. My son is present, observing quietly, learning firsthand how power should answer harm with accountability rather than deflection. I state plainly that dignity always precedes titles, that respect is non-negotiable, and that systems must protect people, not just process. The supervisor thanks me for restraint, acknowledging that measured action carries more weight than anger. I leave the meeting with commitments signed, dates set, and the knowledge that boundaries have been reinforced. Outside, I breathe deeply, feeling lighter than expected. The institution chose growth, I chose boundaries. The story closes not with shouting, but with clarity. As I walk away, I know this lesson will travel farther than applause ever could. Closure arrives not as triumph, but as a blueprint for fairness. It will ripple across classrooms, ceremonies, workplaces, and lives, long after this night fades into memory. My son, staff, and leadership alike carry the lesson quietly now, learning together, ready to do better. My closing moral is simple: dignity should never require credentials. Too often, assumptions betray systems more than people, leaving the quiet, the unseen, and the diligent overlooked. I tell this story to remind you that proof matters, yes, but humanity should come first. Power doesn't always reveal itself in speeches or titles. Often, it reveals itself in pauses, in the way a room reacts when assumptions are challenged. If you hold authority, take a moment to examine who you overlook. If you feel invisible, document everything, choose your timing, and let patience guide action. My son graduates into a world that can change when challenged with grace. I ask you now to reflect on moments you misjudged someone, or were misjudged yourself. What would you do differently today? What would you change? Share your thoughts, because stories reshape norms when told honestly. The lesson lingers, unresolved by design, waiting for your reflection and engagement. If this story resonated, consider subscribing and carrying this practice into your next room, your next meeting, your next encounter, with intention, humility, and courage. Especially when no one is watching, because real change begins there. Quietly, today, with you, alone, choosing to act differently, choosing to see.